Welcome to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast, empowering you to take a whole person approach to your well-being, spirit, soul, and body. Join me, your host, Dr. Lara, naturopathic doctor, entrepreneur, and a servant of Jesus Christ. We are not just a body, we are spirit and soul. It's time to integrate medicine and spirituality into our healing. Let's get started. Everyone, welcome back to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. I'm Dr. Lara. This is episode 12, and today I have Dr. Simone back again with us, and we're going to be talking about reversing diabetes naturally. So welcome back, Dr. Simone. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. I'm really glad to be here. And I love this topic.
Yes. I asked you, what did you want to talk about? And you said reversing diabetes. And I was a little shocked at first. I mean, I love talking about this topic because we deal with it so much and it's so prevalent in our country and around the world. Mm-hmm. Tell me why. Share with the audience why this was such an important topic for you to talk about.
So I had this friend who I went to middle school with, and he reached out to me literally in November of 2022, asking me how else he could help his health, because his dad had just died a month before. And so mind you, this individual was overweight. He owns an entertainment company, right? Mm-hmm. So they go out and do, events. And he told me he kind of ran down what his health issues were. And so I started to ask him questions. I was like, okay, this can't be done via text message. I have to call you. So I talked to him and I was asking him all these questions, and one of which was he was pre-diabetic, but he has high cholesterol. And I was like, okay, well, have you gotten your insulin checked? And he's like, no. What's that? I'm like, well, that lets me know how bad your pre-diabetes is. Well, they don't never check that. I'm like, yes, I know, but now you should go ask and find out. And then he asked me some other things, and I was like, okay, this is what you need to do. And I gave him some recommendations on how to do that. Well, I tried to reach out to him, but I was like, okay, maybe he's busy, like he's not answering his call, whatever. And fast forward to this year, January 2023. I think he was, I don't know how, just before his 40th birthday. Heart attack. Complications of diabetes. And his brother reached out to his brother, and I was like, dude, what happened? Because literally a little over a year ago, he was only pre-diabetic, which I knew was going to happen, right? Like I knew it was going to slingshot. And he said, yeah, he went full-blown diabetes, and then now he had a heart attack and then died.
Wow, so young.
Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, and I'm on these Facebook groups for diabetes, and people are asking, and the comments are like, baffles me, because it's like, there's healthy options at McDonald's. No, there isn't. There's the healthy options at Taco Bell. No, there isn't. You go to fast food, there's no healthy options. It's the misconception that it's healthier, but it's not. It's not healthy at all, right? Well, what can I eat? There's a lot of things you can eat. You just can't eat the crap that you've been putting into your body for the last 15 years, however long it was. So, and when I see these, and then I see things like, oh, it's okay to be at 7.0 or 6.5
for hemoglobin.
For hemoglobin A1C. No, it's not. Do you understand that there's 4 stages of diabetes? Let me just kind of run this down for people who don't understand that there are 4 stages of diabetes.
Of type 2 diabetes.
Yes, of type 2 diabetes, mind you. So there is insulin resistance, there's pre-diabetes, there's actual diabetes, and then there's insulin-dependent diabetes. Mm-hmm. And did you know that there's more people on insulin with type 2 diabetes than type 1 diabetes? That's ridiculous to even think that. Like, these insulin medications should be reserved for people with type 1 diabetes, with this autoimmune issue, but not for people who have had lifestyle
induced diabetes. Right. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is a conversation that really needs to happen. Mm-hmm. I am disgusted by how the conventional medical system approaches diabetes, the screening of it, pre-screening, right, of it, and then the treatment of it. So we both do this, and a lot of other naturopathic doctors, I hope, are doing this. When I get a new patient, I do a full screening. I do hemoglobin A1C. I do insulin. And I do the fasting insulin, and I do also fasting C-peptide. So the pancreas makes insulin, and the C-peptide is a precursor to making insulin. So why would we want to check this? The reason we want to check this is because this lets us know if early on they have a risk of developing diabetes before they're even pre-diabetic. Because hemoglobin A1C can be normal, and I've seen this where it's normal, but then I check insulin and C-peptide, and they're off the charts. So now we know that they are that they're having problems, they're making insulin, they're fasting. The only time the pancreas will release insulin is when we eat a carbohydrate. So if we eat a carb, the body's going to, the pancreas is going to release insulin so that it starts its processes. So if you're fasting and it's in the morning, you haven't had food for 8+ hours, right? And you're fasting, there's no reason why your levels of insulin should be elevated. So then we know that you have what's called insulin resistance. And the signs of insulin resistance are very, very easy to identify. You may feel fatigued, especially after you eat a meal. If you feel fatigued, even after eating a salad, that's a sign of insulin resistance. For women, if your menstrual cycle's off, there could be an insulin resistance. Oftentimes, women with PCOS, a polycystic ovarian syndrome, are insulin resistant. You may have brown lines and
the darkening of the skin on like creases.
Tags.
Yeah,
that's a sign. That's early signs of insulin resistance as well. So this is why we want to check, because if we can catch that early on, preventing it from becoming pre-diabetes or diabetes and not having to be on medications, then that would be ideal. And here's the scary thing, Dr. Simone, is that younger people are getting this.
Yes.
And it's type 2 diabetes. It is induced by our behavior, and we can reverse it. So I became very interested in this because it's something that, affects us in my family, but also our cultures. And now it's not, I used to think it was predominantly Hispanic, but then it's like, no, Native Americans also. And then I'm like, oh, Asian communities also have it. And then I'm realizing, nope, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or Hispanic or what race. Everybody has this risk factor, especially in this country. It's the food that we're eating. It's not moving our body.
Nope.
We don't sleep well. And we got a lot. I was almost going to cuss here. We got a lot of stress. We got a lot of stress. What's the time, Lord? Because we have a lot of stress, you know, and that
will spike your levels as well.
Okay, let's talk about that, because doctors and science, a lot of people don't understand why would stress cause diabetes over time. How does that affect your sugar and your insulin?
Right.
And it does. If you're spiking tons of cortisol, cortisol messes with your insulin and your blood sugars.
Let me intercede real quick, because there's a misconception about when they say cortisol and people think it's bad.
They think cortisol is bad. No, it's part of our circadian rhythm. We need to have it there. It should be high in the morning.
It should be low in the evening. But you shouldn't be low at night. But you shouldn't be having a high levels of cortisol or
all
very
day.
Low cortisol levels. There is a balance to be made.
Yeah, I find a lot of people, they're very, very low, almost non-existent, in the morning, or in the waking state in the morning. And then at night, they get a little bit of a spike, so now they can't sleep. So we call that, you're tired all day, and you're wired at night, and you can't sleep.
Yeah.
And that's an imbalance with cortisol.
Yeah.
And so usually what happens is that people are living so much stress, have a lot of stress in their life, and they're constantly making cortisol throughout the day in times that they shouldn't. They're releasing this. And sometimes they're high for periods of time. It could be years that they're running on high cortisol, right?
And that really stimulates the release of sugar, which
Absolutely.
is where this insulin resistance comes in, because you're already having too much sugar in your bloodstream, and now you have stress coming in. So this is where we're saying stress plays a big factor in this, and it's just not your mental, like how you feel, how you think of stress. Oh, I'm stressed out because my spouse is getting on my back, or my kids are driving me crazy, and my work is this and that. It's not that. It's literally your cellular stress, your environmental stress, your mental stress, what you put in your body, stress.
Chemicals.
Yeah, all these things play a role in that.
There's a chemical reaction. This is what I want people to understand. There's a chemical reaction. Food creates a chemical reaction when we eat it. The hormones and the changes inside of our body, there's a whole chemical reaction, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you like it or not. So you could tell me to pray the diabetes away. It's not going to go away. You can pray that God helps you change your mind, change the way you behave with food. Help me change my relationship with food.
Yeah.
And my relationship with how I react to situations. Because once you start changing all of these things, then you're going to find healing, because we're inducing this upon us.
Yeah. That's
and
true.
oftentimes it could be diet, it could be the stress, it could be a combination of all of them. So there is a chemical reaction that all of these things are changing. So I remember early on in learning all the sciences and the biochemistries, right? A teacher said the one thing that we have control of is what we put in our mouth.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, it was like burn. You know?
Yeah.
It's true. But if we don't want to take ownership, we can't say, okay, doctor, help me with this.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have to pay a doctor, you can just start this in your own kitchen.
Yeah.
But oftentimes what I find is because of our nervous system and how we respond to life, the stress response, that's what makes us make poor decisions. Look, everything I'm saying it from experience, because I did all of that.
Yeah.
I was guilty in my early 20s. I did not eat. I didn't feel hungry. I was like, I want to succeed. I'm working. I'm going to college. I'm doing all of these things. Look at me, right? Yeah. Congratulate yourself. You end up with diabetes and thyroid problems and, liver issues and all of these conditions because I wasn't giving my body the fuel that it needed to run at optimal levels.
Right.
And that's what's fascinating about our body is that it will run and operate at the expense of other organs, even if it doesn't receive the energy and fuel and nutrition.
Yeah, it's so good at trying to balance out
it will,
as
it
much
is
as possible.
The body's always going to try to survive and work with what it has.
Yeah.
So if you're a very busy individual, that's not an excuse to not eat. I'm too busy. No, you should actually, if you are very busy, you should make the time to do that because your body needs the fuel. The brain needs the fuel, the glucose, right? So that you can keep going and working. So I find that very common. I would say, I don't have an exact percentage, but if I had to roughly say, I would say about 90% of the people that come to me for the first time
are pre-diabetic.
They're pre-diabetic or they're going to get there because...
Or insulin resistant.
Insulin resistant because they're not eating. They're like, I'm
not hungry.
Yeah, they're not. I'm like, yeah, you're not hungry because your body adapted to that.
Yeah.
Your body adapts to whatever you put it through.
Yep.
It doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
You feel good right now, but you won't later. And that's the dangerous thing about diabetes is a slow and dangerous killer.
Yep.
By the time you do feel the symptoms, when you feel bad, it's almost too late. It's already done some damage. So go ahead.
And tack on that, women who go through menopause. So if you've been healthy all your life, right? You were very regimented, you're staying fit, and then for whatever reason you hit menopause and now you have high cholesterol and you're pre-diabetic. Think about it. There's a hormonal aspect that plays a role in your sugar levels and in your insulin.
I always explain to my patients that every hormone, everything in the body is it's like an orchestra. There's an instrument and every instrument has its part. And the moment that piccolo, that small little instrument that you need that part to play and no one's playing the piccolo, a good musician is going to know we need a piccolo there.
Yeah.
So the same thing with hormones. They affect one another. They're not working individually. No. Your blood sugars are affecting everything.
Yeah,
every hormone.
It's not compartmentalized.
And I think that's where medicine is. They want to compartmentalize everything. Like this is working in isolation when it's not. They're all affecting each other. And so once one thing is off, it starts to create a ping pong ball effect and affect all of the other systems, right? So, wow, I mean, there's a lot with the these hormones and how blood sugar is. And blood sugars will affect you, how you feel emotionally. You know, people who have their blood sugars dysregulated, they tend to be very angry, irritable. They tend to lash out emotionally a lot more. They can feel more afraid and threatened because oftentimes
they're like fight or flight.
They're fight or flight. The body has all this extra glucose there. And the way I explain it to my patients, I explain it as, imagine sugar, like the glucose molecule is a sugar molecule. Imagine glucose being a little broken piece of glass, right? Just like if you look at sugar, the little grains.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very small, but you got a lot of it in your blood.
You're right.
So it starts to make your blood thick. And the blood is not flowing the way it should, like a river should flow, right? The blood is now thick. It's viscous. It's thick. So if the blood is thick, it cannot flow and bring oxygen and nutrients to the parts of the body that it needs, especially areas with very small vascularity, like our eyes, our kidneys, our heart, our extremities, our feet and our hands. And these are the areas that most commonly are affected by people who have diabetes. Because those arteries, remember we dissected the human body. That's another thing we didn't talk about last episode. We dissected a whole human body over the course of every part, every organ. So if you remember, the kidneys are small, and all that vascularity, all the ins and outs of that, it's amazing. I'm like remembering that organ and thinking, how can people not believe in God? I would just look at the human body and think, how this was created so intricately.
Yeah.
It looks like a little organ, but it's so complex.
Yeah.
And it does so much for us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, diabetes is one of those things that will lead people to have kidney disease. There's 4 stages, and then you end up in dialysis, which is a big, big money maker in that industry.
And on top of that, so I've treated people with chronic kidney disease. And a lot of times, and even with diabetes or anything, right? Diabetes, kidney disease, liver issues. It's always like they've been told by their doctor something negative. And so now they have this preconceived notion that they can't get it fixed. So therefore they have to stay on this medication.
Right.
Or they have to be in this little area.
And oftentimes the medication causes
and it's worse.
problems.
Yeah, it's worse. And I don't like the fact that even then they're just like, oh, you're only pre-diabetic. It's okay. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Just change your diet. Eat healthier.
We'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah. Just eat healthier. What's healthier?
We'll just keep an eye on it.
Like, what's healthier?
Yeah.
Like, what's healthier for the person?
Yeah.
You can't tell me that all you're looking at is the sugar level, because somebody with Hashimoto's going to have a different diet than somebody who's athletic. Or somebody with some sort of autoimmune condition is going to have something different. Like, their diet profile is going to look different.
Everyone's diet is different. So we're gonna move into now what can our audience do on their own at home without having to hire us, because it is something you can do at home, and do it on yourself. So, the very first thing that we always address is the diet. It's the nutrition.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing the doctors don't sit and talk to their patients about is where we start. What are you eating? When are you eating? Are you eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What is a time difference between each meal? How much are you eating? What are the foods that you're eating, right?
Yeah.
And then what else? What else do you ask when it comes to the diet? Because I know that a lot of times
drinks.
What
are they drinking?
The sugary drinks.
Yeah. Like how much are they drinking? What are they drinking? So when people tell me I drink a lot of water, okay,
what is a lot of water?
What does that mean? Oh, I drink like 4 cups a day. And you're like, 4 cups, huh? Do you realize your body needs 80 ounces just to survive optimally?
And here in Arizona, more because it's so hot, we just dehydrate.
And there's studies on that.
Yeah.
When I was researching like water intake, what's a good water intake? Because we're told 64 ounces. There's no way 64 ounces is going to maintain you, because that's under the assumption you're eating enough fruits and vegetables to support that.
Yeah.
And who is doing that? Like how many people in our society is actually eating enough fruits and veggies that carry enough water content that we're absorbing it, right? Most people are not.
No. And then fruits have so much sugar that someone who is pre-diabetic or insulin resistant,
you can't
I'm like,
have
no.
that. Nope.
So we'll see how do you work with patients, because I know when someone's like diabetic, pre-diabetic, or insulin resistant, I really do cut back on the fruit, and I say you can have the berries.
That's what I say. I said all low glycemic.
So low glycemic is foods that are low in sugar.
Right. And I was like, no high glycemic. What does that mean? Peaches, mangoes, bananas. I think bananas is the big one.
Bananas.
A lot of people are like, well, what about my potassium?
Yeah. We'll get it somewhere else. There's vegetables that have it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Avocado.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is that when, because I'm very familiar with the dialysis part of it, so I always like begin with the end in mind, like to not get there. When you're on dialysis, your potassium and phosphorus, you got to be very careful, because the kidney cannot eliminate. Even if you're in stages 3 and 4 of kidney disease, you cannot have high phosphorus foods and potassium. And then water intake is critical. You can't, because the kidneys are not working properly.
Yeah.
So I tell people, man, if we can just prevent you from getting there, then you can have a small or half of a banana every other, so often.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that it's bad for you. It's the frequency that you're eating it.
Moderation.
Moderation. I was helping at a community clinic once, and a woman's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing really good. I had a little bit of some cherries. I had this fruit and that food." And I said, "How many cherries did you get?" "Well, they were on sale, so I got 2 bags. And in the one day, I ate a whole bag of cherries." I'm like, "Well, that's why your blood sugars are high."
Yeah, I would have been like,
I said, no, you could eat like 3-4 little cherries, but not half of the bag in one day. So that's where the education needs to come in. It's like how much food, what to avoid, and then know that you can still enjoy food, but it's the moderation. Yeah. But oftentimes the people I work with, they're developing diabetes because they're not eating.
They're starving themselves?
They're starving.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not a fan of intermediate fasting. I'm just not. I know there's a lot of talk about that, but I don't think that works for everyone.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. I had a gentleman come in who was intermittent fasting. He looked healthy. He looked fine. He looked fit, and he was pre-diabetic. And so I said, "See, it doesn't work for you. I'll tell you, if you're Hispanic, I know for a fact that doesn't work. You gotta eat." And I'm pretty sure most people are like that. If you wake up in the morning, say your first breakfast is at, let's say your last meal, let's start with the end of the day. Say your last meal is at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and you wake up in the morning and you're not having breakfast and you're having lunch at 12 o'clock. So from 6 o'clock the previous day to 12 o'clock, you went a long time without eating. And some people are even going past 12 o'clock. They're eating 1 and 2 p.m. as the first
Some
meal.
people only eat once a day.
Yeah. It's either
hours.
like I eat at 2 or I eat at 6 and 7 or 9 o'clock at night. It's like just the 2 meals. And so what I tell people, the time that you're fasting is when you're sleeping. From your last meal and throughout the time you're sleeping until you break the fast in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when you're fasting. Why would you want to continue to fast?
And especially if you're going to exercise in the morning.
You can't fast and exercise.
Exactly.
You cannot fast and exercise, especially if you're doing weights.
Yeah, you can't.
The muscles need energy. You're going to hurt yourself, is what I tell people. Your muscles will not have the strength, the tendons, everything. You have a higher risk of injuring yourself. And like I said, we don't see what's going on inside of ourselves, so we start to deplete ourselves of nutrients and vitamins because we don't have enough of the building blocks of what we need. So yeah, that intermittent fasting, not a fan of it. I'm just not. I mean, if you're going to live
for everybody,
if you're going to live in the, in like Tibet or like in the jungle and be not stressed and not do anything, then that's fine. But we live in a city. You live in a city and it's high, fast paced, and you got a lot going on. You need to eat. You need to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner 4 hours apart. spread them out 4 hours apart, and you're going to be happier. So let's talk about the things on, so the dietary stuff on, helping with diabetes. I really recommend that people do 20, 30 grams of protein per meal.
I do too, especially starting in the morning. I tell my patients that you better start the morning with 20 to 25 to 30 grams in the morning.
Right. And then with carbohydrates, I really say, hey, really stick to the vegetables, not potatoes and not corn. They're very, very high, right, in carbs. So you want get used to eating some vegetables in there. Fruits are going to be in moderation, and it's going to be the berry family. But I'll tell you, when people do 20, 30 grams of protein per meal, and then carbohydrates, try to stay 15 to 20 net carbs. So a net carb, you take the carb, subtract the fiber, and that leaves you the net carb. So that way you can get a little bit more carbs in your diet. This combination of the two, you will reverse diabetes. You will lose weight if you want to lose weight, and your brain will be happy. You'll feel physically and mentally with more energy. You'll have more mental clarity, right? Better memory and concentration as well. Bottom line, just add more protein. By adding more protein too, you're going to cut out all those cravings for sugar and all those other things that you don't need to eat. See, the thing is, people don't eat well. They don't eat enough of protein, of healthy protein. And then their cells, at the cell level, they're starving. So it's easy to grab chips and snack on things like that.
Your body will tell you, I'm hungry.
Yeah. And
it'll give you signals, literally give you signals. Yeah. And then you're just
yep.
Right?
And it's like clockwork. When people increase their protein, especially getting it in their breakfast, they will tell me, I don't have the sugar cravings anymore. I don't crave the chocolate. I have more energy. My brain feels better. Hey, guess what? Maybe all those kids that are having behavioral issues, they're starving.
So how do you feel about, I want to hear your take on when people are like, well, how about a protein bar? Yeah. I think I have the same response. Let me breathe.
I think that it's okay here and there.
Yeah.
But a protein bar is not food. So I tell people, look, it either had a pulse or it grew from a tree or a plant. That's what we should be eating. So I get it. Some people don't like to eat meat. That's fine. Then you got to get it from other sources, plants or nuts and seeds and legumes to get it there. So I get it a lot. Yeah, I do it once in a while as a backup, but that's not my lunch, and it's not going to be my dinner.
Yeah. Protein shakes go through my system fast.
That's the thing. I do recommend people hey, if you're in a hurry in the morning, at least get a 25, 30 grams of protein shake in, but you are going to be hungry within the hour or two. So it's a great way to get the protein into the muscle, especially post-workout, right?
Yeah.
You're getting the muscle, you're getting the protein in there, but it's not going to sustain you. You're going to be hungry in an hour or two. It does for me. And so it might save me some time in the morning, I'm in a hurry, getting my kids to school, that sort of thing. I'll take my shake, and then I'll have my breakfast, and then I'll eat it when I am calm and sitting.
And I also tell my patients, well, what can I eat? How about we just stick to the outside of the grocery store instead of the inside, where you have all the processed foods?
Right.
Because that's where I'm going to have to tell you, then you have to start reading those ingredients.
You get tempted.
That's where the problem, that's the problem, right? Let's just get you used to eating outside and start with that.
Absolutely. I challenge our viewers that they do this for a month. Commit to it for a month.
Yeah.
Protein and vegetable, that's it. Don't complicate it. Get enough 20, 30 grams of protein in
what
each
can
meal.
I eat?
And here's the other thing too that I get is well, what about in the morning? Cereal and pancakes and all that. You can have some chicken. You can have some eggs. I make my chorizo and eggs with a lower carb tortilla.
There's meat you could put together.
Yeah, you could.
You don't need the cereal.
I could have a salad for breakfast too.
Yeah.
So get rid of the American standard breakfast of pancakes and whatever. Most people's breakfast though is coffee and toast.
Yeah,
that's what I hear. Or a cookie. I'm that's not food.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee and I don't need it. And I tell people I don't need it because I eat well and I move my body and I do make sleep a priority. I didn't when I was younger, but I do now. So let's go back again to the thing. So try to do for the next month,
The
20,
diet,
30 grams
yeah.
of protein and 15 net carbs
15
per
to
meal.
20.
Yeah, 15 to 20. And you'll see that blood sugars will change, weight will change, and the way you feel, which is the most important.
Yeah.
The way
yeah.
you feel will change. And if you feel better, you will make better decisions because your brain is
And then
happy.
make sure you're drinking enough water.
Enough
And
water.
I think I have to stress that because when we're thinking of like, how much water am I drinking? I'm drinking 4 cups of water. I think that's my average for my patients.
Yeah.
4 cups of water is 32 ounces. Oh yeah, but I do drink 24 ounces of coffee, or they'll say 2 cups of coffee, right? And so then I'd have to ask them, how big is your cup of coffee? Is it 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 12 ounces, 16 ounces, or 24 ounces? And they have to pause and they stare at me and they're like, oh, I guess it's like 12 ounces.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you're drinking 24 ounces a day. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely stay hydrated. So do that for the meals. That's one part. Now, depending if someone is like diabetic or pre-diabetic or insulin resistant, that kind of varies. But some of the things that I have turned to that I've seen work very effectively is an herb that we use a lot, and that's berberine.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, right now, the media is giving it all this attention because it's like for weight loss. It does help for weight loss. It helps for a lot of different things. And there's different types of berberines, too. There's some that are more for digestive. They do have an antiviral benefit as well. There's no negative side effects to it. A lot of it is going to be, I found that the dosing, how you dose this, is what's going to help a person be successful in lowering those blood sugars. So berberine is a great herb to use. Chromium. If you have sugar cravings, it's a mineral. It's in green food. So, but you can get it as a supplement. Chromium will help with sugar cravings, but it helps to make the insulin receptors to be more sensitive, to work more efficiently, so that it can take up glucose faster and remove it from the system. There's
Jemima
sylvestre. It's a very good herb. You can get it in powder. The first time I tried that herb, it was in powder, and someone mixed it in a little bit of water, and I drank it. And then I worked with him, and he said, "Why don't you now eat something sweet?" And I literally spit the sweet food out that I had.
Too much.
It was nasty. It was like I put dirt in my mouth. So that herb, when it's on your tongue, anything you eat that's sweet after that, it tastes nasty. So you cannot, you will not eat sweet.
Yeah.
So that's a good way if you really have an intense like sweet tooth, aside from adding more protein, because that's why you need it. You need more protein. That Jemima sylvestre will get rid of that sweet tooth, but also it modulates. It will not drop your blood sugar too low. The plants have an intelligence where once it's in the body, it's able to modulate and increase it or decrease it. So it helps with blood sugars. Those are the top 3 things I think.
Bitter melon is another one.
Bitter melon is another good one. You could eat it or you can get it as a supplement.
Yeah. I didn't realize. So growing up, my parents would actually make bitter melon. I absolutely did not like bitter melon because it literally tastes bitter.
It's very bitter.
Very bitter. And so they would put it in stews. And that would be one thing I would push aside. But over the years, I'm like, okay, let me just continue to take it, right? And I would eat that. And it's an acquired taste. So if anybody here has ever tried that, it's in a lot of Filipino recipes.
Yeah.
So it is an acquired taste, but it is very bitter. But it is really helpful.
It's medicine.
Yeah.
Food is medicine. And so if we eat the right foods, it'll do that. Some people are just more... they have a higher predisposition to diabetes, and unfortunately, if you know that to be your case, then you just have to change the way you're eating.
Cinnamon's another one too.
Which one?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon is.
But you could overdo it. You gotta watch that one.
Well, the thing with cinnamon is you gotta do high doses of it to be effective. So I really don't use cinnamon a lot with patients because I've seen these other 3, 4 that work. Yeah. Really, it's the diet. I get the diet. Start walking. If you can walk even 20-30 minutes a day.
You don't have to go strenuous.
No.
Like just keep it easy.
Yeah.
Let your body like recalibrate. because you've been stressed out, right? Like your body's usually stressed out. So let your body calm down enough to be like, okay, now it's time to focus in on this particular thing.
Right.
But keep the body moving.
Yeah. And so that's a good transition into like the stress management part, because when we have a lot of stress, we're going to make poor decisions when it comes to eating. We might not eat. We might eat the easy foods that we have access to. So if we can manage stress, the herbs that I like, the botanical herbs that I like to use are passion flower. There are lavender tinctures, not lavender essential oil. That's a whole other conversation. But there's a chamomile and lavender tea, that combo you can get.
Ashwagandha is another one.
Ashwagandha is good. And sometimes I combine, my herbal that I have for like anxiety for people, it's valerian root, passion flower, and lavender. And it's very gentle and it helps with stress. I mean, there's other herbal stuff, combinations that we use that people really don't have access to. But there's a lot of things that I do treat the nervous system, change the diet, give them these supplements, and then have a conversation with them about stress and life and why to do this. Because, like I said, diabetes, it is a silent killer. The number one organ that's on a wait list for organ transplants is the kidney. And most of the people that are on a wait list for it is because of type 2 diabetes. And if we looked at statistics or all the profits of the medicines that are tied to diabetes, whether it's the medications, insulins, all the things it's billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it all can be changed by changing what's in our kitchen, what we're putting in our mouth.
Yeah. And being committed to it.
Yeah.
I think that, if you need to detox, that also helps out, in the beginning. But I think that when you could be committed to your diet, it helps out a lot.
It really does.
And changing your mentality of, then I can't eat anything.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the downside to when people are so hooked to the sugars, to the false sugars.
Look, sugar is crack. It really is. If you were to see the parts of the brain that sugar elicits the brain, it's the same as cocaine and some of these methamphetamines, some of these drugs that are out there. It has the same response. We justify food though, because it's not a street drug. It's not bad. But if we look at the Bible, it does say, gluttony is a sin. And so we need to be careful with that. And it's not to make anyone feel bad, because I've been there, and I know what it takes, the hard work. I always felt like I was falling off the bandwagon off of, when I was on my diet.
Yeah.
And it would upset me.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I get this? I'm a smart person. This is before medical school. But what I didn't realize was the amount of stress I had in my life was what was inhibiting. So I always say, if I had a little magic wand and I could just get rid of one of your major problems, it would be the stress. Yeah. It would be the way your body responds to stress, so that you can have a clear mind and you can feel like you have the time to prepare a meal. You have the time to do these.
Yeah, find a way to just de-stress.
You got to find the way. We cannot make time, but we can find the way, right, to make it happen.
Yeah.
And even if it's small steps. So small steps, we're going to wrap here up. So the small steps of reversing diabetes: add more protein, cut back on the carbs, drink your water, manage your stress, get your body moving for 20, 30 minutes a day. Doesn't have to be crazy activity, just, walking at the pace that you can handle. Make sure you're sleeping. There's some natural herbs that you can take that we discussed that you can do that will help you. And, it sounds simple, but it's not easy.
No.
It really is. So a lot of the times we have to identify, do we have a food addiction? Do we have a behavioral issue with food and life? And so look at the relationships in your life, because those really play a big role. Is there anything that you want to end with, that you want to share on this topic on diabetes?
No, I think we covered practically all
Covered
of
it
it.
all
I think
of
we
it.
did cover the whole basis of the
Yeah.
approach on how to actually reverse diabetes
Yeah.
without actually coming in and getting your labs done.
Yeah. Here in Arizona, just know that you can do your own labs. You don't need a doctor to write an order for you. You can go and order certain of them, not all of them, but hemoglobin, A1C, blood
Insulin.
sugars. Those are some that you can go to any lab and pay cash. That's the only thing is you pay cash, which is not a lot of money, and you can do your own labs. Now, if you don't know how to interpret them, then that's a problem, but the internet has a lot of information. I think what I really want people to take away from this conversation is to really, really understand how serious diabetes is and the destruction that it does to your body slowly over the years. And if you're young and you're not taking care of it, it will end up in severe chronic disease. And it's not going to only impact you, but it's going to impact, your family. That's really it. Your husband, your wife, your kids are going to have to deal with the chronic side effects of this disease. It is truly a silent killer in our country. And it's unfortunately plaguing younger and younger children. So we need to be careful about what we are consuming. So, hey, we are going to move into our segment of the good, the bad, and the ugly of our sick care system. Of course, we're going to tie that conversation to this topic, and really is doctors are not educating their patients enough on what they need to do at home. They just give a medication, and if there's no behavioral modifications, lifestyle modifications, they will be managing the diabetes for the rest of their life until they die of a complication. So I hope that's not you. If you have any questions on this topic, you can reach out to myself or Dr. Simone. I will be providing links in this video for you to reach out to Dr. Simone if you are interested in working with her. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And as always, be blessed. Thank you for listening to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Help this message reach more people who may need to hear it. Leave your comments. I want to know what you think. If you're interested in learning more about Raices, visit our website at raicesndmedcenter.com. Until next time, be blessed.